Now here on Tonic, we've been running a trial of non-drug treatments for insomnia. Thousands of you are taking part. You've filled out a sleep diary and you've chosen one of the treatment options. Casey Barros has been following up with some of you to see how you're going.
Our real-world trial is all about getting out and talking to our viewers. So first up, we wanted to know, how well do you sleep?
Not very well.
What do you think the problem is?
I would say too much work.
So how well do you sleep?
Not that well at the moment.
Are you a good sleeper?
I don't sleep very well at all, actually. We manage to get about 2.5 hours sleep a night, and then the rest of it is just disrupted sleep, tossing and turning, getting up, stroll around for a couple of minutes, try and get back down to sleep again.
What kinds of things do you do? Do you ever take any medications or try any alternative therapies?
No, I try not to take medication at all if I can help it, because I just don't like what the drugs do to you. You know, your kidneys, and your body, that sort of stuff, plus your mind.
How well do you sleep?
Actually, very well. I'm really lucky. I get a good night's sleep.
All right, guys, how well do you sleep?
Pretty good.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
How well do you sleep?
50-50.
What do you think the problem is?
Old age.
Now, one of these treatments is online cognitive behavioural therapy for insomnia. It's a highly innovative program from the University of Virginia's healthcare system, their Behavioural Health and Technology department. The person who's developed this with his team is Dr Lee Ritterband. And I spoke to him on Skype the other day to find out more about insomnia and the program. What sort of insomnia are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about chronic insomnia, and this is usually insomnia that can manifest in a number of different ways. People might have trouble falling asleep. They might have trouble waking in the middle of the night. They might be waking up earlier in the morning than they want to, or they might have some kind of combination of one or all of those things. So this can happen for people for many, many years. Can go on for 10 plus years even. And for many nights each week, 5, 6, 7 nights every week. So it can be something that is pervasive across their life.
Now, your program, Shut-Eye, is based on cognitive behavioural therapy. Well, it's one of the elements. What is cognitive behavioural therapy and how does it apply to insomnia?
It focuses on the way we think about things and how that impacts how we feel and how we behave. So for cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, it might be that we think about how we sleep in a way that's not quite as functional as we would like. So for instance, I might believe that I have to have 8 or 9 hours of sleep to be functional the next day, which is maybe not actually true. Or what happens even more often is people begin to start getting anxious about going to sleep once they've had difficulty sleeping. So I might begin to get worried about going to sleep at night, and then that anxiety in and of itself actually causes me to have additional problems.
And just very briefly, what happens?
The therapy focuses on what kinds of ways are we thinking about sleep and how can we change that. We call that cognitive restructuring. And the behaviors focuses on 2 primary parts, a sleep restriction piece and a stimulus control piece. So these are many rules that we put into place that focus around our sleeping behavior and our sleeping regimen as a way of really being able to get us set into a good place to be able to have sleep that is satisfying. I think the one thing that's important to understand is that cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is not an easy treatment. It takes a lot of work on the users and the patient's point of view, from their point of view. So it's important to understand that the undertaking is one that people should make sure they're ready for, understand that they're going to have to put some work into this. The sleep problems didn't start overnight and they're not going to be fixed overnight. And so it's important to understand that it's going to take some time and some effort on their part to really be able to overcome the difficulties they're having with their sleep.
Now, you think of this as something that you need a therapist to do, and you're doing this in an online program called Shut-Eye.
That's right. That's right. And in a fully automated program at that. So we spent a lot of time figuring out how can we automate all the elements of a face-to-face treatment. And that's where we came up with Shut-Eye. We operationalized all of the various components of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia and then implemented that into a fairly sophisticated, robust intervention that we can deliver online.
And just very briefly, what happens?
Users will come into the program. They'll be doing a lot of tracking of their sleep each night. Each morning, they'll come log in. They'll actually put in how they're sleeping. And based on how they're sleeping, based on the data that they put into the program, the system tailors the intervention for that particular user. So one user may get a very different intervention than another user based on how they're sleeping. So that's one piece of it. And then another piece is quite a bit of information about how to implement all of the strategies, both cognitive and behavioral and psychoeducational, into your life. So focusing on what you should do around one's sleep, how you should be thinking, and how you can maybe change some of those cognitions that you've had that aren't quite as useful or helpful, as well as thinking about how you think about the environment and various environmental factors and physical factors that might be impacting your sleep.
And what's your expectation of how many people would have to do shut-eye for over 6 weeks for one person to actually have a better night's sleep?
Well, from our trials that we've had already, the findings really have been remarkable. We had in our first trial that was published, at the end of the trial, 73% of those who actually used shut-eye were not identified as having insomnia anymore.
Lee Ritterband, thanks for joining us on Tonic.
My pleasure. Good to be here.